do what I do.
Shout out to Assistance HNIC. And by the 1870s, you had these white militias and lynch mobs and KKK. They rolled back every gain our people made, and the North had abandoned us. And with the compromise of 1877, where federal troops were withdrawn from the South, it left Black communities exposed to this unchecked racial violence and economic exploitation and what was literally legal apartheid. And this was the dawn of what is called Jim Crow. It was a caste system built on humiliation and disenfranchisement and basic just brutality. You had Black codes that it literally criminalized our existence. Our mere presence was criminalized, okay? And so you could be put in jail for that. So sharecropping bound us to the same plantations we had escaped. They came up with these crooked ways in which they could keep us in debt. And many of you foundational Black Americans, you heard the stories from your grandmothers and whatnot. But other than that, there wasn't even education. Our schools were starved, our churches were burned, and our lives were devalued. So after the Civil War ended in 1865 and after the period of Reconstruction, we had to get out of there, okay? It was the violence and we had to leave. And so because the climate of the South became unbearable, Black Americans we left, okay? Between 1880 and 1890, the lynchings of Black people soared. And this is something that was well documented by Ida B. Wells. You see, she documented the brutal murder of thousands of Black men, thousands of Black women, and thousands of Black children. And these weren't random acts of violence. They were part of a coordinated campaign of white terror. And it was designed to crush any notion of Black freedom and upliftment. So around about 1910, or should I say in the 1910s, and accelerating all the way up through the 1940s, we have something called the first Great Migration, okay? And at this point, more than 1.6 million Black Southerners fled to the North and in the Midwest and cities like Chicago and Detroit and Pittsburgh and Cleveland and New York. They were seeking industrial jobs and basic human dignity. And they packed in the train cars, sometimes whole churches. The whole church moved at once. The whole church. And they brought with them not just their labor, but they brought soul with them. Now, there were already enclaves of Black people. Detroit had a very famous Black group of a community out there. All right. And of course, as you can imagine, those Black people were not necessarily that happy because you had these unacculturated Black people coming up from the deep South. And these were sophisticated Black people who had integrated. And many of them had some choice words for these country bumpkins, quote unquote, coming up from the South. But these same country bumpkins had brought soul. They brought Southern gospel. They brought the blues. They brought jazz and storytelling. You see, Detroit wouldn't be Motown if it wasn't for these Southerners who came up there. They brought the cadence of Mississippi Delta to New York and Chicago and Cleveland. The spiritual resolve of Alabama Black Baptists and the cultural traditions of Louisiana Creoles and East Texas cattlemen. They brought work ethic. They brought family values and Black self-determination. They brought culture, and they transformed every city they entered. Take Chicago, for example. So by 1930, its Black population ballooned from 44,000 people who had already been there and who'd been free. Some of them never had been enslaved, never even having descendants enslaved. So by 1910, okay, it was 44,000, all right? By 1930, it was 230,000. And see, the South Side became a self-contained Black world. It had political clubs, had Black newspapers, it had jazz clubs, it had labor unions. And then if we want to talk about Harlem in New York, it became a global symbol of Black art and resistance. And during the Harlem Renaissance, which would not have existed without Southern migrants like Langston Hughes, Zora Neale Hurston, Duke Ellington, Marcus Garvey's UNIA rallies. He wouldn't even have anybody to talk to if the brothers hadn't come, the sisters hadn't come up from the South. All of that was powered by the bloodline of the South. The 1700s. And for example, free Black communities in Philadelphia, Boston, and New York, they predated even the American Revolution. So there were Black people. I want you to understand the context of which I'm saying. There were Black people present before 1776, before this was even a country. Okay? But these populations were small and often interwoven with abolitionist circles. You had a lot of mulatto elite networks, okay? And the new Southern arrivals, they were rural, they were religious, and they were raw, okay? And they were culturally distinct and more rooted in survival, okay? And that sometimes created tension with the older Black Northern elite who tried to distance themselves from the Southern ways. But of course, the white people say, nah, you go on over there with your people, okay? But the newcomers, the culture proved to be dominant. Shout out to D-Med. I mean, after all, they were the majority. Their churches grew, their slang became the norm, their food, their music, their struggle, all of it remade Black America's cultural DNA. And so by the 1960s, with the civil rights movement in full swing, Black American culture forged in slavery and raised in Jim Crow and hardened in migration became the default face of Black America. From Malcolm X in Harlem to Fred Hampton in Chicago to Huey P. Newton in Oakland, it was the voice of Southern-rooted FBA Americans who led the charge. All right? Now, that was the first migration. Let's talk about the second great migration. If y'all learned something, I should earn something. And I know you're learning something, but I just want to reemphasize that. All right. Now, the second migration, this was the massive exodus that remade urban America. Okay, it was far larger. It was far more transformative and far more politically charged. From 1916 to 1970, there were two great waves. Over 6 million Black Americans packed up. They packed up their lives and they fled the racial hellscape of the Jim Crow South. This wasn't just a migration. This was literally a refugee crisis under a domestic apartheid regime. Can you imagine? It was so bad down south. You had 6 million people move from one location to another, hundreds and hundreds of miles away. See, our people weren't just looking for better jobs. They were escaping what was, in effect, domestic terrorism and state-sanctioned violence and economic bondage. They were running from lynch mobs, literally. They were seeking safety, dignity, and a chance to breathe. In the first wave, that was spurred by World War I. Okay, and it continued all the way up into the 1930s. There you had 1.5 million Black folks from the South moved to the North. They came to take those jobs because the white GIs had been sent over to Europe, so they came and filled those spots. The second wave, from the 1940s all the way to the 1970s, that's 5 million people. 5 million people. Imagine that. Shout out to Ashton Mulkey. It was Black people everywhere. And that exodus intensified during and after World War II because they also came for the jobs and they also came to fill those spots. And when the war economy cracked open jobs and opportunities in northern and western industries, the mechanical cotton picker replaced sharecropping labor in the South. Okay, that is so. Where did they needed us at the shipyards? They needed us at the defense plants. They needed us at the auto factories where they needed manpower because guess what? The white men had gone off to Europe to fight. So you had entire families that fled the South with nothing but suitcases and church recommendations. And they boarded trains bound for Chi-Town, Detroit, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, New York City, and others carved out paths to go westward, like Los Angeles, Oakland, Seattle, and Phoenix. Many of them following the older Southern relatives to factory work. My grandmother left Mississippi. What's up, what's up, what's up? Welcome, welcome, welcome to the broadcast. This is Uncle D. People wash their ass in the tub, Kamala Harris.
You were tuned in to Uncle D. D's black man talk. Pull up, homie, take a seat. Don't be a shadow watcher every day. You learn something and you earn something. And let them know and drop some money in the plate. It's getting cold, ladies, talking ratchet. There's a king here, grab your coat, zip your jacket. Keep quiet for a second, close your jaw. Attorney Spurling, this ain't pearly, know the law. Talking Constitution, pushing pins when he shooting, give him that. Masculinity, just for the record, sprinkle that. You can keep your cat, gotta cut it. Only cat he rubbing, gotta love it. I call it Molly Buddy. Gotta vote your interest, voting earns. Presidential, this is for the money that I earn. When you gon' learn, my people, that evil mixed with evil. No matter what you're doing, baby, this ain't equal. Sometimes when you're special, you get hated. The test is for the best, you're damn right, my people made it. Uncle D, Blizzard King, you been served, gotta notice. Now black men out here know we winning, gotta hold it now. Uncle D, you been served, get your notice. Now black men out here know we winning, gotta hold it now. Uncle D, you been served, get your notice. Now black men out here know we winning, gotta hold it now. Uncle D, you been served, get your notice. Now black men out here know we winning, gotta hold it now.
Hey man, I'll do what I do.
Somebody need to whip your ass.
Get up and whip him, Sweets.
Hey, don't be putting the money in my hand all rough.
Take your ass out here. You buy you a Flowbee and cut your own damn hair from now on.